Hey everyone, Dockwell here, and today's video is going to be the mid-tier list for patch 7.39b. So to start off with the first hero in the S tier, we have Puck, and it feels like this hero has been S tier for like a year. No matter what they do, it seems like because they nerf other good heroes, Puck just stays S tier, and this hero has been so good for so long, it feels like they keep targeting the passive to nerf and some other small numbers, but I just think the basic idea of what the hero does is so good because it is really good mid against a lot of different matchups. It ganks extremely well, does magic damage early, but then can still scale with right clicks, with Witchblade and other things like that. And late game, it's impossible to deal with this hero. Like, if it is a game where you feel like you're going to get caught out, you can go all the items that you need to. You can go for Blink, you can go for Yules, you can go for a Lincoln's, or anything like that that makes you survivable, and then you just, like, can't die. I think that as we get further along into the meta and the power creep and all that kind of stuff, makes this hero just so valuable because it can scale with all that damage, all the right clicks, all the magic damage, and then is also unkillable. So it's like, if you have a Puck on your team, you know they're going to be able to push side lanes. You know they're going to gank. You know that they're going to scale. It just does everything you want. So when they come in and they nerf this a little bit, yes, that's fine. Maybe it makes the laning stage a little worse. So they nerf numbers here or there, but that doesn't really matter because fundamentally, what this hero does, it's just too good. I think that's really what people are realizing now over the last like 6 months to a year. It's just such a good hero. It's kind of like Pango was for the longest time. I mean, Pango even still is that kind of to this day, where it's just like they nerf the hero, they change it, but it always comes back into the meta. Batrider was like that for like 10 years until they keep, constantly changing what that hero does. But even now they changed it again and Batrider seems to come back into the meta. It's like certain heroes just fundamentally are so good, and Puck is one of those. So I kind of already listed off what that hero does, and it doesn't really do anything different now. It just is really good at all of those things. So it's super solid. It's a very, very good mid hero. Pretty much the best mid hero. If you want to learn mid, like a classic spirit kind of hero mid, Puck is the one to learn because he's so dynamic and he can do so many different things and pretty much do everything and solo win the game in a lot of ways. Then next we have Leshrac, and this hero seems to come like into the meta and be super, super good and then kind of dip out for a little bit and then come right back. It doesn't seem like it has that much time where it's really bad. It seems like it's always S tier, then it comes down to like B tier or C tier a little bit, and then a couple patches later comes right back. And you're going to be buying all that same stuff that you've always bought, like Bloodstone and Yules and all those same things to just do insane damage. I think the difference is back maybe a year or so ago, you would take towers super quickly, and that was part of the main thing that the hero did. Like, you would just push in waves and push towers and just melt towers and take map control and then gank and get super tanky. You do a lot of those same things, but obviously now you actually don't do a lot of damage to towers, which actually makes the laning stage more insane. So if you see a good Lesh player, what happens is they will actually try to kill all the creeps, and then they can just like dive tower and kill the enemy and do insane amounts of damage as long as there aren't creeps around. And it actually makes this hero even stronger because you're doing even more damage with all of those extra bursts and all that extra stuff that's happening instead of actually hitting the tower with your Diabolic Edict. And so that, I think, is what makes this hero kind of come back into the meta, but it still functions very similarly in the later portions of the game. It's kind of what Lesh has always done. I think the other underrated thing about the hero is the Shard. I mean, those split earths, getting bigger and bigger, especially if you're defending high ground, if you're going high ground, that is very, very important, but people don't really talk about that much. Ag Scepter is very good. This hero just outputs insane amounts of damage, and I think really it is about the laning stage. That's why I kind of talked about that to start, because if this hero can have a good lane, you can kind of crush the lane, get your farm, get to these timings, then you can do really, really well. Also, if it's not a patch where a lot of like anti-healing, anti-bloodstone stuff is good. So AA was amazing before, now it's not as good. So this hero kind of rockets up. That is a big consideration. Like, I think they just changed Scotty again. So I'm not necessarily sure if Scotty's better or worse, but I think it is a little bit worse. I think people aren't going to buy that as much. I think the anti-healing isn't really there. So having a hero like this is very, very good because you're going to be able to get that Bloodstone, heal a lot, and do insane amounts of damage. And you really can solo the game with this hero, honestly, because of how much damage you're outputting. Like, if you just stay alive, you will kill everybody. And then next we have Queen of Pain, and this is kind of a rare hero where both of these facets are actually good. So Masochist was pretty much the facet for a long time. This hero was probably S tier even in the previous patches for a while, but people were picking Masochist. Then people were also picking Bondage. Occasionally they were experimenting with it, but I don't think it was actually that good until they've recently changed everything to make these two facets more even, and you can go for both of these. This is obviously the spell damage version where you're going for, you know, all of the spell, just jumping in, bursting with your 2 spells, and then also the Dagon. You can get like Dagon 5 and just like blow people up with that. That's the Masochist version, and that is pretty good, honestly, because of the heal you're getting. That extra damage you take doesn't really matter. And then Bondage is more of like a tanky kind of jump in, be hard to deal with build. So you can go for like Blade Mail, you can go for like Ags, that kind of stuff. If you feel like it's not going to be a good game to blow people up with the Masochist and the Dagon and all that kind of stuff. So I think that is actually what makes this hero really good as well, is because you can go both ways. Like, you can pick the hero last or whatever if you're picking mid, right? Then you can see the matchup, you can see the full team, and you can decide which way to go, which one's going to be best for what you want to do in that game. You know, if they're very squishy and you feel like you can get away with this, totally go for that. If you feel like you need to be tanky, you need to like front line a little bit more, you know, you have a lot of squishy backliners, like your supports aren't melee, you have a drow on your team or something like that, you can go for this tankier version, this more like blade mail frontliney version. I mean, obviously you're still going to be a Queen of Pain, you're still not going to be like a centaur, of course, but you can, you know, have some more impact where you get more HP and you're, you know, way beefier and that kind of thing. And so I think that is also why this hero is so good, because you have those two styles of play. But even so, it's a very, very good hero. You still burst people like crazy amounts. You still have this other more right click, more tanky, more, you know, Ags focused kind of build that you can go as well. And so that is what makes this hero so dynamic and very, very good. Still, even though it was good before, it's kind of like Puck in that way. Queen of Pain and Puck have been around for, it feels like a long time, and they still are very, very good. And then the last two heroes, we have Death Prophet, and I was predicting that this hero was eventually going to be S tier. It just was a matter of time because they kept buffing it and buffing it and buffing it. For like the last 2 years, it felt like. They buffed it constantly, and it just never came back into the meta, because I think a couple years ago, it was absolutely broken for a long time. It was one of those, like a Puck, like any other of these big heroes, like Bat Rider or whatever, like I said, who they just keep getting nerfed and they keep coming back into the meta. It felt like that was the same thing with Death Prophet, but then they finally gave the killing blow to the hero. I forget the exact nerfs, but they just like destroyed everything that the hero did, and it kind of went away for about a couple years. But because of that, they kept buffing it, and I was like, every time I saw the buffs, I'm like, this hero, it's just a matter of time. People are going to figure out that this hero is going to be good, and this is finally the patch. So they gave it like attack speed, which is great. They gave it just, I think, damage buffs all across the board on pretty much everything it does. So now it dominates the mid lane. It's super hard to deal with because obviously you have that spam that you can harass, secure last hits, and then if you're low, you just Spirit Siphon. They can't walk up, like especially against melee heroes, but even a lot of other Spirit heroes, like their range usually isn't that good. So unless you're against like a Lina or something, you can usually get your Spirit Siphon off. So you're going to secure your mid lane pretty easily. You have a good silence, which is great against certain heroes. It is kind of slow to come out. People can dodge it and stuff, but that is really, really great in a lot of different situations. But then really the fact is that you can pop your ultimate, you can go super tanky, you can get this attack speed and this Ags, which I always liked Ags, even though people didn't buy it a ton and it was maybe a little bit undervalued in the past. Now that you have the attack speed talent at level 10, which is kind of insane, 40 attack speed is absurd, and you can go for the Ags, you can do absurd amounts of damage, super tanky, super survivable. You're kind of also like a Lesh, except you don't necessarily rely on even buying Bloodstone. You just run in. Instead of doing pure and magic damage like a Lesh, you're doing physical damage, because if you didn't know, this does physical damage. And you're just super hard to deal with when you have your ultimate up and you're just right-clicking them, and then the Ags comes into play and you're just like, you're draining everybody's health. You're doing insane amounts of damage with your ultimate. You're clicking people 1,000 times. You can go Witchblade if you want for a little extra slow, but obviously Witchblade doesn't really scale super well. You don't want to, you know, upgrade to Parasma because of the physical damage. But still, this hero is just absurd with all the things and all the numbers that have been buffed over the course of the past few years. So it is a very, very good hero. I think you can even play this hero off lane. It's still very good. But it's great mid because it just secures mid so well. You can take the tower. You can take the side towers. You can gank very easily on this kind of hero. And then Huskar is the last S tier hero. And I think that's just because this is the cheese hero. I would categorize this as a cheese specialist hero. It's pretty much the best one currently. It's just a very good hero. Again, when they changed it and gave it no mana, it was kind of awkward. It was like, is this good? And I think over time they buffed it a little bit here and there, and now it just is definitively the best cheese hero. Again, we don't really need this hero to do anything special or different. I think the main thing is that this now silences. That's been the thing for a while, but I think people were kind of figuring out, okay, how does this really work with the silence and not with the disarm? Because obviously the disarm was really good against physical damage because this hero already gets tanky against magic damage. That's something that's already built in, but I think the silence just adds to, okay, now we're not really just countering, you know, a physical damage hero. Like, we still have to worry about the carry, but in terms of the matchup 1v1 in the mid lane, I think this silencing just really amps up the potential for this hero to snowball incredibly hard, because now you have a little bit of something that can catch people out, whether it's just 1v1 in the mid lane or in general when you go to the side lanes and, you know, somebody has an escape ability and you just silence them really quick, you do a ton of extra damage. You know, it just makes your early part of the game, not just the lane, but also 10 to 20 minutes much better because you have a silence. I think that really is part of it. But then also just what the hero does in general. All of these abilities are great. The Ags with the stun and everything, that's also awesome and has been awesome for a while. So once you get to these later portion items, you know, if you do get to your 4 or 5 items, you are still insane. So I think that's the big thing with the hero, is you almost like don't have any weak point. Like the first couple levels, I guess, is a weak point. You know, if you only have Spear, you only have Berserker's Blood, or you only have Inner Fire, that's the weak point. If you get past the first 3-4 minutes and you do well, like, you can easily dominate the lane and solo win the game. And so that's Huskar. And then next we have A tier. And honestly, with A tier, a lot of these heroes could also be argued to be an S. I just think they are a slight tier below, and that is Storm Spirit, Ember Spirit, and even Void Spirit. So all the Spirit heroes are here. I think they are still very good. You can definitely pick them in pretty much every game. It's just that I think Puck is a little bit better. Queen of Pain is a little bit better. Death Prophet is very, very good right now, and Leshrac is very, very good as well. And so I think those heroes are just better than these 3 Spirit heroes. I think Leshrac and Death Prophet are kind of 2 different types of heroes. I think those are more like run in, be tanky, be annoying. Queen of Pain and Puck are more of the Spirit heroes. So I think those are just a little bit better Spirit heroes right now than these 3. I would say there's not too much to say about these. These are the heroes they are. The only one that I really want to comment on a lot is Void Spirit, because this hero was in the dirt, just completely dead for, like I said, almost kind of like Death Prophet for what seems like a couple years, because again, they kept nerfing it and nerfing it and nerfing it and never went away, and then they like obliterated it a year or 2 ago. And so now it finally has come back, because in the last patch they gave a couple buffs to its one Spirit ability, and they kind of did some changes there, which I think just makes it good enough now that it actually has a little, just a little bit extra. That's all you need to give one of these heroes, just like a little bit of an extra ability, a little bit of extra damage, a little bit of extra lane capabilities, you know, whatever it is, ganking. Just give it something and it seems to just rocket right back up to where it was before. And so it's not S tier, it's not as broken as it once was, but it is still very, very good. And I think the biggest problem too was this hero can have some bad lanes and some bad matchups, and now it's a little bit easier for the hero to just survive and get out of the lane and have a good time in general throughout most of the game. So Void Spirit is kind of back. It's not fully back to where it was, but it is back as a definite pick that you can get away with, and I think does deserve the A tier. You could even argue maybe it only deserves B, but I kind of put it up here because the win rate and pick rate is still pretty good, and I think it deserves that. Then we have Lina. This hero's on the upswing. You can definitely still pick it mid. It is a decent carry as well, kind of going more for the right-click build, but you can still go for the magic damage. I just don't think going all in on the magic damage is what you want to do, even from the mid lane Lina. I think just going right-click is viable because carry Lina is good. I think mid Lina is still good. I just really like this hero in general because you have such good attack range. You can, you know, win a lot of different matchups or at least survive them. You can take the mid tower if the enemy leaves to gank, like if you're against a Puck or something like that. You can just force the mid tower extremely easily. You can counter gank really well. And if you get the runes, which you can be decent at contesting, you can also gank pretty well yourself. You're not the best ganker in the world like these other Spirit heroes, but you can do it. And you can put a lot of pressure on the mid lane instead. And then you can transition to like a carry in the later portion of the game, even from the mid lane. So that's why I personally really like Lina in general. When Lina is good and viable, I think it's a great pub hero. Then they changed Invoker a bit. It's broken, or it was broken in the last couple patches. I'm not a huge Invoker player, so I can't super comment on how good it is now in terms of like everything that they changed. That's just not my niche. But I know that they They mixed it up a little bit. I don't think it's as good. In the past few patches, I don't think it was last patch, but before maybe they even changed it as well, where it was like a right-click hero as well, which was kind of annoying. Like it had all the spells plus right-click. They kind of made that a little bit worse, and then they changed that even more. There's different builds you can go for now, which are kind of interesting. I've seen people go for like 1,000,000 Forge Spears, which is kind of funny. I've seen just different things, but the classic Invoker is still there. You can still go for Ags. You can still do a lot of the same stuff. I just don't think it's insanely good like it was before, but it is still A tier. Right up there with these Spirit heroes. You can totally pick Invoker and get away with it. Then next we have Kunka, and I think mid is probably Kunka's best position because you do want to go Blade Mail Radiance. I don't love the hero as a carry, although it is getting picked by pros and stuff, and it is pretty good. But I feel like it's a little bit awkward. Like you just hope that the other people on your team are picking some other kind of carry offlane, carry mid. But I do like it from the mid because it's a little bit greedy to go the Radiance from the mid, but it is still viable. Like you still get that one item, Blade Mail, which is pretty good. So it's an intermediary item. You're not rushing the Radiance. And you do have decent impact, decent damage, but also decent control. You can gank extremely well. You can even get solo kills on mid lane a lot of the times, especially once you hit 6. So I think mid is just the best role for Kunka. Personally, I just really like that. The only problem is if you don't go for more damage with the Blade Mail Radiance and kind of have some kind of right click, if you try to go too much control, you can kind of fall off and have very little impact. I was kind of spamming this hero at one point in the last patches, and the problem was it felt like if the enemy team had too much mobility, like let's say I went for an Ags and you get that double boat, if you can't hit the Ags, if you can't hit that double boat and there's not like a central place where the team fight is happening, it can feel a little bit awkward because that boat is such a huge part of what you have to do with this hero, especially since they took out the Ags with the big Torrent Storm thing. Like that was the broken part of the control hero back then. Now it's still good with double boat, but it's not as good as it once was, and it can be a little bit awkward if there's too much mobility and you can't hit that ultimate. So just be wary of that. But it is still very, very good. You can still scale decently with damage and have very good early game to just like kill the lanes and go kill the enemy carry and stuff like that. Then we have Monkey King. This hero, I kind of put this up here because I think it's like the best kind of mid carry. I mean, other than Lina, obviously, but like melee hero in the mid lane currently. Tiny's really not that good right now. Earthshaker's not as good as it once was. Magnus is not as good as it once was. I think Monkey King is still good, has some good matchups against these other heroes. I know Ember's also a melee hero, but it's a spirit hero, so it's not like a right-click hero necessarily. So when I mean like it's more of a carry-ish kind of hero, and yes, you're going to gank, but you're going to do all the same things that Monkey King does. But I think this hero could potentially be argued to be B tier. So I understand that it's not like... I think it was maybe a little bit better last patch, but I still think it does deserve A tier. Then we have OD. This hero is a very awkward, kind of weird, because the higher MMR you go, I think the less good this hero is. I think the worse it is, the less good. The worse this hero is, the higher MMR, like in pros and stuff. But even they are starting to kind of gravitate towards it, so I think that means it's actually kind of broken. Because I think this hero is broken like below 5k or even 6k MMR almost all the time because people don't understand how to deal with the right clicks. People don't in the mid lane understand how to deal with the astral, and people just get blown up by the ultimate. Like if you know what you're doing, you can totally solo carry games. You just have to make sure that you have players, if you're going to be last picking this OD, that you have other people on your team that can like make stuff happen. Because like, let's say you just have a sniper carry or like you have an offlane carry or something like that, and you have these supports that are more defensive. It feels really, really bad to have OD when nothing else is going on and it's like your astral is the only stun, or you feel like you can't really even hit people because no one's going in. Like that's the big problem with OD because it doesn't really do a lot on the map. Like you kind of dominate mid, you don't really gank very well unless you get a rune. And even if you do, it's not the best. You're not pushing towers a lot. You're kind of just farming a lot. It's just a little bit awkward, especially because you don't go for Meteor Hammer. I mean, maybe you can still buy it, but that's not really a huge thing these days. So it's a little bit awkward, but obviously the weird risky portion of the game is like 10 minutes to like 25, and the lower MMR you go, the more you can get away with that. And this hero can just 1v9 games, honestly, if you get to that later portion where you get the Ags and you get the right clicks and you get the Hex and all that kind of stuff. Then we have Tinker. You could even argue that Tinker still is S tier in terms of cheese picks. If you know what you're doing, you can totally dominate with this hero. It's just not as good, I think, as last patch, but it still is very, very good. It just does all the same thing that Tinker has done since they gave it back March. Just very annoying with the heal, with the clearing camps, with the doing insane amounts of damage. Just still does all of that stuff. But I personally don't love it as much as the old Tinker. I just want them to bring back the old Tinker, get rid of the shield, which is very annoying, and give it Rocket back. Honestly, if that happened, I would spam Tinker again, because I do like the hero. I just don't like the shield thing, but whatever, it is what it is. Then Meepo can be played from the mid, played as a carry. I think mid it's a little bit better because you get that solo experience, and you can definitely stomp games with Meepo. You just have to be a Meepo specialist. It is pretty good with the Ags and the Shard and stuff like that. Does fall off a little bit later, but you can totally win games and stomp them if you know what you're doing. Then B tier, we're starting off with a Necro. So I think Necro in like below 4K games is actually like S tier. I think this hero is just absurd, honestly, because if you get to 30, 40 minutes and you get your items in most games, you can literally just kill everyone. You just destroy the entire game. And that's especially if you're going for Radiance. Like you're going Radiance, then maybe you get your Boots of Travel. You go for like Heart and Ags and Shivas and stuff like this, and you just absolutely obliterate people. It's the problem with this hero is it's super greedy to rush the Radiance. Like you want to get the Radiance, okay? So that's kind of greedy. You're not the greatest ganker. You are decent in the lane. You can win some matchups, but you also get punished in some matchups. So that's the problem. You're kind of just like forfeiting mid in some ways, depending on the matchup. You're not the best ganker, although you can do it. So that's the thing. You need to be very active with the hero. Try to get your ult off cooldown on the side lanes and kill the carry and stuff like that. So you can have very good games, but it is very, very greedy. Like unlike a Kunka who also wants to go Radiance, you at least have like team fight. You can at least gank and stuff. This hero just like doesn't really do that. You just kind of waddle at people and just like press your Q and ult them. It's like, well, I hope that works. And if it doesn't, it's going to be a little bit awkward for the first 20, 25 minutes, because then after Radiance, you do want to go for, you want to get your Shard. You want to get Ags and Heart and Shivas. You want to like get all of those items at once. I mean, which one do you go for first? Do you go Shivas? Do you go Ags? Do you get the Heart? It's kind of like awkward. Like maybe you get the Ags after the Heart because that's really when the regen is good and you do extra damage. You kind of want BKB. Like people are getting BKB a lot these days. You could go Yules against certain matchups. It's just a little bit awkward. That's the thing. You want like so many items and there's no real great build path. So that's why it's like you just want to get to 30, 40, 50 minutes. And then once you have all your items, you literally can't lose. That's the big issue. But you can easily lose from like 10 to 30 minutes. That's the big problem with the hero. So it's very greedy. The lower MMR you go, the better it is. Earthshaker still does all the same things that it's been doing for a while now from the mid lane, with just like hitting people with the Ags and blowing them up and doing 1,000 damage with the right clicks with the totem. Same kind of stuff. It's just not as good as it was. So not really much else to say with that. It's still decent, viable. If you like the hero, you can totally play it, but it's not as good as it once was. Mag, same kind of thing. You can still go for the mid lane mag. You can still do a lot of control stuff. You can still get the Ags for that double shockwave. You know, it does all those same things with the horn toss and with the skewer back and with the Echo Saber and all that kind of stuff. All those things are still there, just not as good as it once was. And I think because it's not as good of a carry as it was before, I think it's kind of fallen off as a carry. So if you want to go more for like right clicks for yourself, that's not really as good, which it always was a benefit to have Magnus be able to go for full control if you had a team that already had damage, or go more into damage if you felt like you really needed damage. So the fact that you can only really go for control now makes it a little bit more one-dimensional, which means it's still good, still B tier, but not that great. Sniper, again, awkward in some lineups, but can just own, especially the lower MMR you go. Still is decent, still gets picked and has decent win rate, even at higher MMRs. So it can be very annoying. But again, you're also sometimes just hoping that the enemy doesn't run over you. And then if they do, you're just hoping to win by defending high ground, which can be very annoying and weird. You also need to be kind of aware that Sniper is not one of these heroes that you just want to sit around and do nothing and just camp in the mid lane. Like you want to try to actually gank with the hero, because if you can make this hero effective and make it feel like a spirit hero where you're TPing in, you're counter ganking, you're getting a rune and you're ganking with like a haste or something. If you're doing that with this hero, you just make it feel so much better. But if you're passive, static, and just like sitting there and farming and clearing waves, like that is not going to be good enough. Then TA, you're just playing carry from the mid, and that can be good sometimes, but it's just not as good as other, heroes, because obviously all these heroes do a lot of stuff. And even if you are playing like a Huskar or an OD or like any other like monkey, like you can have more effectiveness in the side lanes than a TA. Like on TA, you're just not going to have effectiveness in the side lanes. You're trying to dominate mid, even take mid tower, farm, and then maybe participate a little bit later. But you're not really going to gank with like a 6-minute rune. That's just not going to happen. That's why it's B tier, because it's a very good hero right now, but just not that great in terms of ganking and participating in the game. So you just hope that your allies are going to do a lot of stuff. Keeper of the Light, it's just the problem with this hero is that it's all in on magic, where even if you're going for like a Queen of Pain or a Puck or even these Spirit heroes or whatever, even Leshrac, you're just not doing as much as they are. And they have some other kind of aspect to their hero. Like, you know, they have some kind of right click ability, or they can transition into right click, or with Leshrac, it's like more survivability. This hero doesn't really have that. It's just like all magic damage, 100%. Yes, you can like recall people and stuff, but that feels like more of a support or like pairing it with a Medusa kind of thing. So I put it B because you can still win with the hero, and I think it's a little bit underrated. I put it over here too as like a cheese because I feel like it is kind of a cheese hero. It's like a magic damage cheese hero. If you know what you're doing and you can play this hero well, you can dominate the mid lane, just run around the map and kill everybody. That is something that's viable, but it's just not the best. Then Lone Druid, it's just okay if you know how to play the hero. You can definitely play it mid and transition into a carry, but you can have matchups that you're taking advantage of. Visage can be okay from the mid lane. I might even put it at C tier potentially, but it is an okay hero. Not as good as it once was like 6 months to a year ago when it was very broken, but it is fine. And then Broodmother as well. It's like if you are a specialist kind of cheese pick Broodmother hero, you can totally do that, but it's just not at a great spot right now, so that's why it's only B. Then moving on to C tier, we have Dragon Knight. Dragon Knight, carry, mid, and off lane have all kind of fallen off a cliff compared to where they were before, no matter which of the facets that you choose. I think they're all kind of semi-viable, but it's not like they're broken or very good like they once were. We obviously had the carry Dragon Knight with the red facet for a while there, and then people were experimenting and seeing, oh, actually the blue facet with the slow and stuff, or the poison facet are really good. And all of these things, like if you look at the pick rate, it's just like kind of dropped off a lot. The win rates are still decent, like okay, it's just not nearly as good as it once was. So I think like you would just be better off picking another one of these heroes. Like if you're going to pick Dragon Knight, for instance, in the mid lane, wouldn't you just rather have like a Lina? Wouldn't you rather have like a Death Prophet? Like if you're going for right click, kind of like I'm a carry, like I don't know, pick a Lina, right? Even like an OD at this point, or even like a Huskar if you're kind of cheesing. If you're going to go for like pushing towers and being tanky and being annoying, like just pick a Death Prophet, you know, pick a Leshrac. That's why there's just better heroes at doing what this hero does from the mid lane. Then we have Tiny. This hero seems to be sticking around. Like you can still totally pick it and do the blink and the combo and the crash landing fast and all that stuff. It's just not as good. It just feels like it keeps getting nerfed, keeps getting worse and worse, but it's still okay. That's the same thing with Pangolier. Like if you're a good Pango player, you can totally do it. It can have a lot of impact. It's not that this hero is terrible by any means. You know, C tier doesn't mean that it's bad, like completely garbage. It just means that it's just not at a great spot compared to where it used to be or where some of these other heroes are. So it's kind of niche, and you have to be a good Pango player, but you can take advantage of those situations. It's just you better know what you're doing. Timbersaw, another similar situation where it was very, very good for a long time. It just kept getting a lot of nerfs. Like, I understand it does overwhelming damage at times, but again, Leshrac, Death Prophet, like these heroes do similar kinds of things to Timbersaw with his AoE damage. You just have better options right now. Although, again, like a Pangolier, if you know what you're doing and you can take advantage of the mid, you can have a good lane and you can run around and get tanky and do insane amounts of damage and blow up a lot of strength heroes. If there's a lot of enemy strength heroes, you can totally pick this and win games with it. I just don't think it's the best right now. Batrider is one that's come back into the meta. So this hero was F tier for a long time for pretty much off lane or mid. Like in both of those tier lists, I probably had it in F tier for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. But now they finally made this hero a little bit better. They kind of changed how the hero works. To be honest, I don't even really care how Batrider works in terms of they keep changing it all the time. Like they'll change it, how the sticky napalm works and does like damage over time now and all this kind of stuff. It's just, it's not that good. That's why it's like C tier. Like it's viable, it's fine. They changed it to not make it trash. Like it's not a support now, but it's not broken. And honestly, I kind of like that because I feel like it being C tier is something that we've never seen before. It's either been so bad it's F tier, or they changed it to make it absolutely broken and it's S tier. So making it only be C tier is actually kind of a cool accomplishment where they made it semi-viable, where it's not garbage, but it's not actually broken. So it's one of those things where I'm not seeing it a lot. I don't really know that it's amazing or good or like what it does now that's that much different, but it is at least semi-viable, like just based on the pick rate and win rate alone, okay? I'm not an expert Batrider player. I'm only level 1 on it, as you can see here. So, but at least it is decent. Like it's getting picked a little bit and has a decent win rate compared to like before where it was not picked at all. If it was, had like a 30% win rate. So that's Batrider. Then we have Viper. This is just like a pub stomper at low MMRs, but very slow, kind of weird transition, weird mid game, doesn't gank that great. You'd rather just have some of these other heroes like Alina is just going to be better. Same thing with Shadow Fiend, kind of a little bit awkward, can have very good mid lane domination times, but it is one of those weird things where, you know, like Alina, there's a half right click, half magic damage thing. But in SF's case, you have to go like all in on one. You know, you have to go all in on the blink and the Yules and the Ags and all that kind of stuff and do all the magic damage for SF. Or you go all in for the right click damage, but then your ganking potential is kind of limited. Where for Lina, you can have all that magic damage. Like, you could even incorporate an Ags later into the game. You don't necessarily have to go Ags, and you still can gank and still do a lot of magic damage early. So that's kind of why this hero is just at an awkward spot. It feels like another one where it's either very, very good or kind of not that great and just okay. Then Phoenix is a niche pick, kind of like a cheese pick. You can totally pick this from the mid lane, but you have to be a good Phoenix player and be very, very good at winning your lane, dominating lanes, and just knowing when to press egg and getting your farm and all that kind of stuff. So it's very much, I wouldn't say it's fully a cheese pick, but it is a niche pick that is kind of cheesy. And then Pudge is okay from the mid lane right now. It's not the best. I like when Pudge is just right around this C or B tier. I like that. I do not mind when Pudge is S or A tier. I kind of like that, but when that happens, it's in every single game, so that's kind of annoying, and I don't love that because honestly, the hook can be super annoying. Like, the hook is the thing where it's like, I should be winning this game. That's the same thing with like Magnus and Skewer. It's like, we should be winning this game, or even we should be losing this game, but the hook and the Skewer are just like turning the game. And I don't love that when one ability just like completely turns the game because of the weird repositioning thing. But yeah, it is okay. C tier is definitely, it's viable-ish. It's just not that great. You have to be good at like landing hooks on the mid laner and dominating the mid lane. Then lastly, for pickable heroes, we have Wind Ranger. This hero's okay. Obviously, you're kind of playing carry from the mid, but you just rather play another kind of carry from the mid, even like a TA or a sniper. Like, I don't know, Wind Ranger's okay. You could certainly win with it, but it's a little bit awkward. Even Clinks, like, Clinks is getting a little bit better as a hero, but it still is, as a mid laner, very squishy. You can just get dominated in some matchups, and then, like, what are you doing? Like, you kind of need an Orchid to gank if you're going for that build from the mid lane. Like, you need a lot of farm to do anything. You're not going to be running around at level 6 and, like, ganking. I mean, you can, but it's not that great. You know, you'd rather be... Even like a sniper or a TA can do more almost, it feels like, than a Clinks at level 6. That's the problem. Rays are just very anti-carry, just not that great. Another one of these like ranged heroes like this, just not at a great position in general in the meta. Kez completely dead. I already talked about that in the carry list. This hero's crap, garbage. They changed it. It didn't do anything, and it made it worse, if anything, honestly. And then Sand King, kind of completely dead hero as well, as you hear a motorcycle outside. And yeah, this hero's just completely dead. They killed it. They changed the facets. So now you basically don't have the moving Sandstorm. Not that that was great anyway. I mean, this hero was already kind of dead out of the meta for the most part, but people were still picking it here and there. It was kind of coming back, and then they just killed it off, which kind of saddens me because I like when Sand King's good. I don't know. It just felt like it was never good for so long, and every time they bring it back a little bit, they kill it. Earth Spirit, I guess you could pick this, but it's been dead for a while. You might even make an argument that it's F tier. Primal Beast, just not great as anyone. Like, in terms of, you know, Tiny or Earthshaker or any of these kind of like ganking heroes that are tanky, it's just not a good one, honestly. I mean, you could totally make it work, like even with like a Pango, in a sense of like you have this ultimate, and if you get to the late game and you get super tanky, you do a lot of damage. Like, you can totally make it work, but I just don't think it's at a great spot. Arc Warden, you could even potentially put this F tier as well. This hero's absolutely dead and killed. It is still a cheese pick. You could potentially pick it mid if you're a good Arc Warden player and make it work. But again, very, very bad, at a very crappy spot right now. Then F tier, Dazzle is dead. This hero is done. It's completely gone. Nobody picks it anymore in any core role. Just say goodbye to Dazzle. If anything, it's a support now, which is annoying. Again, I hate when they like introduce these cool heroes that have like a new ultimate or a new way of playing, and they're like, oh, this is annoying, you're dead now. I think they already nerfed it a little bit originally in like a couple patches ago, like a letter patch, and now it's just completely gone. Zeus is absolutely absurdly obliterated into the dust. Again, it was even getting picked more of as a support a few patches ago anyway, and now I think it's just absolutely done. Like, it is getting still picked as a support more, but even as that, like, the AoE on the lightning bolt is smaller, and just, I mean, I guess if you want to play like some meme thing where you're just like farming refresher ags and like divine rapiers, you can maybe do that, but yeah, it's dead. Alchemist, just not a great mid laner. Like, you're not wanting this farming guy mid. Like, just, if you're going to go for greedy and radiance and stuff, just go for like Necro. Sky and Pugna, I have them here. I was debating, honestly, taking them off. I took off Snapfire, Winter Wyvern. I took off all these other heroes that just haven't been good as like a universal hero for like 2 years. So I took those off of the list, even though they were F. And like these two, it just feels like I keep them on here because I want Pugna and Skywrath to be cores again. but I don't know if that's ever going to happen. If it doesn't happen anytime soon in the next like 6 months, I might just take them off the list because it seems like they're not coming back as mid laners, honestly. Like I don't have Silencer on the list, even though I wish that he was I wish he wasn't just a support. I wish he was a mid, but I guess it doesn't happen. Or even like a carry Silencer would be pretty cool. You know what I mean? Like with the right click and stuff, but for whatever reason, that just isn't allowed to happen ever. So anyway, that is the F tier. That is the tier list. That's a mid tier list for patch 7.39b. As always, guys, if you liked the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.